Hello and welcome to Ask Bellco. This month we are diving back into our conversation about talking to your kids about money, specifically with tips and tools for the areas of allowance and budgeting. And joining us to talk about it once again is Yannek Smith, a personal finance coach from Empowered. Yannek, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure to be here, Jack.
Good to see you again. When I was a kid, my parents gave me an allowance. It was not a large amount, and I think that I first remember getting it was maybe 7 or 8. It was like I said, it was maybe $5 a week or a month. And then as I got older, that amount increased until I was, a teenager and got my first job. Is that still a thing parents do? Should you give your kids an allowance? How much should you give them? What are the ideas about that?
Yeah, what you just described is pretty common, actually. And it's a great way to, if you start small and build your way up, it gives your child more responsibility along the way, more money to manage, more decisions to make.
Yeah, I guess you can't manage money unless you have some.
That's right. There has to be money there. So that's why, some folks will even start even a little earlier than that age, say around 5. And it could just be really, small amounts in the beginning. But like you say, the idea is that, we're thinking about the purpose of allowance.
Explain, what do you mean the purpose of allowance?
What is allowance for? Is it to give your kids money just for the sake of it? I would say that no, not necessarily. It's so that they can use that money to cultivate good financial habits and behaviors.
So you're saying that rather than just free money, go to the movies, go buy your toys. You're saying, I'm giving you this so you can kind of start to learn how money is managed.
That's right, and I feel like a lot of parents, get really bogged down into the amount that they're giving the kids, and that's honestly not the most important thing. It's more, how are they using it? So as we talked about last episode, you want to start real basic when the kids are young,
Sure.
Early childhood, say 3, 4, 5 years old. Maybe you start with a jar system or piggy bank system.
Yeah, we talked
where you've
about
got the spending, the giving, and the savings jar.
I love that giving jar.
It's a great one.
Great concept. Yeah, I love it.
Me too.
So we're talking about how to teach your kids, and you're giving the kids an allowance so that you can teach them about saving and budgeting. But how do you actually teach them that, the saving and the budgeting? Okay, here's your, for example, $20 a month. Now what? Now how do I teach them about saving and budgeting?
That's a great question. And in the beginning, there needs to be dialogue, right?
Okay.
So you can have a conversation around rules of thumb. So a common one you hear is you should save 10 cents on every dollar that you get.
Okay.
So regardless of the amount, you want to see your child putting into savings every time they receive money.
Okay.
And this will help them get that discipline of putting regularly.
Yeah.
Because as we always say in Empowered, savings is not an amount, it's an action, right?
Oh, I like that a lot.
So we want them to get into this habit, this discipline of always being able to put a little bit of money aside, help them save up for big ticket items.
Well, and it's an important kind of value to instill early, because we were kind of talking before the cameras were rolling, and we've talked about it on the show before, about how a lot of American families don't have a lot of savings, and we've heard couldn't financially stomach an emergency more than maybe $500.
That's right.
So if you're instilling that value with kids early on, that they should be taking 10% or 10 cents on the dollar, whatever, and putting it away, you're kind of putting that action into practice early, I feel like. Do I have that right?
Exactly, because there's different categories that we want to save for. Of course, in the beginning, it's just, hey, maybe just a savings jar. But then, in the future, we want them, when they're adults, to think about saving for emergencies, saving for retirement, saving for a down payment on that car or that house that they want.
Well, you're going to have different priorities, right, at different times. So maybe, if you're, maybe you do have, as a kid, I'm trying to think in kind of kid terms, maybe I've got some of my allowance that I'm going to spend on my, my comic books or whatever, or my toys. But maybe, I'm putting a little bit of that aside because I really want that bicycle or that video game console, and so maybe do I have that right?
You
maybe
hit the nail on the head right there. You want the spending to be aligned with their values. And what are their values? What do they value? Well, that can change from year to year when they're kids, but have a discussion with them, like, what's important to you? Do you want to save for, some dance classes, or do you want to save for this piece of candy right here?
Yeah.
Or, it's really about having a discussion about what do you want and how can we get there. That's a great conversation to have with a kid. You don't even need money to do that. You could tell your kid, hey, if you had $100, what would you do with it?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great conversation starter.
Kind of just more of my kind of mental exercises and things like that.
Yeah, and see what where their head is and what's important to them, and then help guide their spending, especially in the earlier years. Help guide their spending so that it reflects their priorities. But let them still be, at the driver's seat.
Kind of the agent there.
That's right. You can help navigate them, but the idea is you want them to get into the habit of prioritizing and decision making.
Talking about helping them navigate, I've heard of like these. I think they're like debit cards or something like that you can get for like a teenager, I think, or a younger kid, and you can kind of have them maybe spend it at certain places. I'm not totally sure how they work, but have you heard of these? And can you talk a little bit about the idea of maybe getting should you get like a credit card or a debit card for a kid to teach them about money?
Well, that's a question that all families will have to face.
Right.
And one of the nice things about this information age and the internet is that there are some great products where kids can practice using a debit card or practice using a credit card, or they can be on a shared. They could share.
You could kind of
be an authorized user on a card. Now, of course, you have to be careful with this, but the idea is that you help them go through the motions, help them understand what is a credit card payment, what is this interest thing that we're looking at.
Yeah, and you can kind of log in and kind of look at the transactions.
In the beginning, you want to be very careful, and you want to have this conversation, of course, with kids, not only when it comes to money, of course, in many other areas of safety, but just to be financially secure. You want to make sure that your kids know that they have to be safe with their information online.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the information age. Our kids are going to buy things on the internet. They're going to possibly get all of their paychecks through, for example, direct deposit, wire transfer, and all that kind of stuff. They're going to be making in-app purchases on their phones. I'm sure you've heard those horror stories of people who open up their bill and find that their kid spent $12,000 on Minecraft hammers, or I don't know.
It's terrifyingly easy to do.
Yeah. So what are there any ways that we talked a bit about watch your personal information, but what are some other things you can do to kind of protect kids?
Absolutely. So that's that we're really dealing with behavioral things there, and especially in the beginning, if they're gradually taking financial decisions, making those decisions, and buying app things or purchases. I'm not too up to date with those purchases, but point being, if they're making any kind of online purchase in the beginning, you want to set the example, and you want to say, every time you make a purchase, you need to ask me about it.
Right.
So we need to do this together, especially in the beginning, right? So you don't want it. You don't want it to be a free for all. Because, like you say, it could
have the conversation after you've opened the phone bill.
That's right. Yeah. And plus, you want to guide them through the actual, if they are going to make an online purchase, how to do it, which sites and softwares are safe versus which ones are not. So this is something you really want to be transparency is really important in the beginning. Just like you say, you can even monitor card usage, which is a great way to get children and young adults using these products, but also having some oversight.
And really thinking about where that money goes. I feel like it's really easy, especially the ones where you can click a button inside a phone game. And I'm with you. I don't play a lot of them, but I understand it's very easy to do. And I think for kids, maybe it's hard to connect to that's real money. You know what I mean? It's it's not just pushing a button. That all that money's coming from.
And it's embedded into a video game, so it can be almost a little bit deceptive.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's right. You have, and when they're actually using the credit card, or they actually see, what does that mean if I buy
That's
this?
very true. Maybe if they
app.
have some of that experience, it maybe is a little bit closer.
Yeah, and again, this, like many of the things we've talked about in these two episodes, dialogue is key, right? So set expectations. Especially in the beginning, you really want to make sure that that you're monitoring your children's financial activity online. And this is, as they get older, it's up to you to decide, at what point do I feel
We're
okay?
going to increment the next thing.
Or at what point would I say, okay, you can make an app purchase if you want, but it's limited to this amount, and you need to ask me first, right?
Sure.
So you're setting those guidelines.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, between this episode and last episode, we have covered a lot of really great topics. We talked about kind of how to talk to very young kids about money, how to kind of add concepts as we go. We talked about core concepts of saving, being careful with your online purchases. We went over a lot of stuff, so I'm sure there are a lot of parents who are watching who are thinking to themselves, this is all really great, but whoa, that's a lot of information. I'm a little overwhelmed. Any resources or tips that you want to share with the folks before we go today?
Absolutely, and it can feel overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. There's different activities, conversations, things that you can do really in all different age groups, and they have to be age appropriate. So it's okay if it feels like it's a lot. You're not alone. Even for myself, and I've studied this topic, created a class around this topic. There's always more to learn. It can be challenging. I would say a few general guiding principles are, be flexible. Try things out. Certain things will work with your kids. Mm-hmm. Certain conversations you'll find will be successful. Activities, books, whatnot, may be good, and other ones may not click so well. So explore new options, but don't be afraid to ditch the ones that don't work.
Sure.
And go
Stick
with
the
what
ones
works.
that do.
That's right. And stick also to your values. So that's key.
Yeah.
At Empowered, we always talk about making sure that your spending and your goals are aligned with your values. Mm-hmm. That's really, in essence, what you want to do with your kids as well. Make sure that that they are following their values, the values of the family. Another guiding principle is to be consistent and kind of practice what you preach, or walk the walk.
Yeah.
Right? If you say, you should save your money and not use a credit card to buy things that you can't afford.
Then don't go whipping out that plastic fantastic next time you're at the mall.
That's right. If they see you doing that, they'll be, they'll think, they'll wonder why you said one thing and are doing the other things.
Doing another.
So consistency, being flexible. There's a lot of great resources out there.
Okay.
For those clients of Bellco, you can talk to any one of their representatives. They also have great financial content, by the way. So you can. There's a game called Coin Dexter.
Oh, I love the name.
It's an avatar-based game where you.
Are there in-app purchases?
I don't believe so.
Probably not. All right. Well, anyway, so tell me about this game.
And basically, it's an avatar-based game where you save. And you go on missions, and basically your success depends on you saving your money. So it's a fun way to get kids into that, getting pumped about savings.
Give it points, make it a game. I'm there.
Yeah.
I learned so much, and I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours more. Will you come back on the show sometime? We'll talk about it some more?
Absolutely. And if anyone is interested in any additional resources, check out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Money As You Grow program.
Wait, slow that down. Money As You Grow?
Money As You Grow.
Yeah.
So that's an initiative by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Okay.
They've got great activities, recommendations for parents on how to guide their kids through these activities, through these conversations. Ron Lieber's personal finance columnist who specializes in kids.
Okay.
Opposite of Spoiled. I think has bank accounts for kids. That can also be a great way to get them started a little introduction to the financial world. There's a lot of great information out there.
You just gave us so many great resources. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Come
very
back
welcome.
and see us sometime, okay?
It would be my pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks, Yannik. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Ask Bellco.